Question 1. The monitoring system demonstrates a statistically significant deviation in the performance patterns of a specific demographic group during the Washliyah University Medan entrance examination, raising concerns about potential irregularities. Option A. Ignore the monitoring system's findings, assuming the deviation is a random statistical anomaly and does not warrant further investigation to avoid unnecessary disruption to the admission process. Option B. Publicly announce the monitoring system's findings and the demographic group affected, initiating a broad disciplinary inquiry against all candidates within that group without further individual assessment. Option C. Immediately disqualify all candidates from the identified demographic group whose performance falls outside the expected range, citing the monitoring system's findings as conclusive evidence of unfair advantage. Option D. Initiate a comprehensive review of the examination's design, administration, and scoring procedures to identify any systemic factors that may have contributed to the observed performance deviation, while also conducting a targeted, fair investigation into any specific instances of suspected misconduct. The correct answer is D. Initiate a comprehensive review of the examination's design, administration, and scoring procedures to identify any systemic factors that may have contributed to the observed performance deviation, while also conducting a targeted, fair investigation into any specific instances of suspected misconduct. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's need for efficient student admission processes with the ethical obligation to ensure fairness and prevent potential bias in the selection. The entrance exam is a critical gateway, and any perceived or actual unfairness can have significant reputational and legal consequences for Washliyah University, Medan. Careful judgment is required to interpret the monitoring system's output and determine the appropriate course of action. The correct approach involves a thorough, evidence-based review of the monitoring system's findings, focusing on identifying systemic issues rather than individual anomalies. This approach aligns with the principles of academic integrity and fair assessment, which are implicitly expected in any university's admission regulations. Specifically, it requires investigating whether the observed patterns indicate a flaw in the exam design, administration, or scoring that could disadvantage certain groups of applicants. This proactive and analytical stance is crucial for upholding the credibility of the entrance examination and ensuring that all candidates are evaluated on merit, in accordance with Washliyah University's commitment to equitable access to education. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate disciplinary action against individuals identified by the system, without understanding the root cause, fails to address potential systemic flaws. This could lead to unfair penalization of students if the monitoring system's output is misinterpreted, or if the observed patterns are due to external factors not related to academic misconduct. Such an approach neglects the university's responsibility to ensure the integrity of its examination process as a whole. Another incorrect approach that involves dismissing the monitoring system's findings without proper investigation is equally problematic. This would ignore potential evidence of irregularities, which could range from technical glitches to more serious issues of academic dishonesty or bias. Failing to investigate could lead to the admission of unqualified candidates or the rejection of deserving ones, thereby undermining the fairness and validity of the entrance exam. This approach also risks overlooking opportunities to improve the examination process for future admissions. A further incorrect approach that involves making broad generalizations or assumptions about applicant behavior based on limited data from the monitoring system is also unacceptable. This can lead to biased decision-making and unfair treatment of applicants. Professional reasoning in such situations requires a systematic process. First, clearly define the observed anomaly or pattern from the monitoring system. Second, consult relevant Washliyah University regulations concerning academic integrity and examination procedures. Third, gather further evidence to understand the context and potential causes of the observed pattern. Fourth, evaluate the evidence against established university policies and ethical guidelines. Finally, determine the most appropriate and fair course of action, prioritizing systemic improvements and equitable treatment of all applicants. Question 2. The risk matrix shows a high likelihood of not meeting enrollment targets for the upcoming academic year at Washliyah University, Medan. The admissions department is considering a strategy to increase outreach to potential students by emphasizing the perceived ease of the entrance exam and the high acceptance rates, with the goal of boosting applications. Which approach best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for university admissions at Washliyah University, Medan? Option A. Develop targeted marketing campaigns that highlight the university's strengths and academic programs, while providing clear and accurate information about the entrance exam's format, difficulty, and preparation resources, and transparently communicating realistic acceptance rate expectations. Option B. Focus recruitment efforts on showcasing success stories of recent graduates and offering conditional admissions to a wider pool of applicants, downplaying the specific details of the entrance exam's rigor to encourage more applications. Option C. Increase the number of recruitment events and offer incentives such as scholarships to students who apply early, while providing only general information about the entrance exam and its passing criteria to avoid discouraging potential applicants. Option D. Implement a strategy that simplifies the application process and reduces the emphasis on the entrance exam, instead prioritizing a broader assessment of potential based on extracurricular achievements and personal statements, with the aim of increasing overall applicant numbers. The correct answer is A. Develop targeted marketing campaigns that highlight the university's strengths and academic programs, while providing clear and accurate information about the entrance exam's format, difficulty, and preparation resources, and transparently communicating realistic acceptance rate expectations. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's immediate need for enrollment with the ethical and regulatory obligations to ensure prospective students are making informed decisions. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can create a conflict of interest, where the desire for more students might inadvertently lead to misleading information or the downplaying of academic rigor. Careful judgment is required to uphold the integrity of the admissions process and the university's reputation. The correct approach involves transparently communicating the academic requirements and the realities of the Washliyah University Medan entrance exam to all prospective students. This means providing accurate information about the exam's difficulty, the types of questions asked, and the necessary preparation. It aligns with the ethical principle of honesty and the regulatory expectation that educational institutions provide truthful and comprehensive information to applicants. This approach ensures that students are making an informed choice based on a realistic understanding of the challenges and their own capabilities, thereby fostering a more committed and successful student body. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on recruitment numbers, without adequately addressing academic preparedness, fails to uphold the principle of transparency. This can lead to students enrolling who are not academically suited for the program, resulting in higher dropout rates and a negative impact on the university's academic standing. Another incorrect approach that exaggerates the ease of the entrance exam or downplays its importance misleads prospective students and violates ethical standards of fair representation. This can create false expectations and lead to disappointment and a sense of being deceived. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of admission over thorough assessment of a student's potential for success ignores the university's responsibility to maintain academic quality and to ensure that admitted students have a genuine opportunity to thrive. This can dilute the academic standards of the university and harm its long-term reputation. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes integrity, transparency, and student welfare. This involves understanding the specific regulations and guidelines governing university admissions in Indonesia, particularly those relevant to Washliyah University, Medan. It requires a commitment to providing accurate and complete information, even if it might deter some applicants. Professionals should actively seek to understand the potential impact of their communication strategies on prospective students and ensure that recruitment efforts do not compromise academic standards or ethical principles. Regular review of recruitment materials and processes against regulatory requirements and ethical best practices is also crucial. Question 3. Research into the Washliyah University Medan entrance exam procedures reveals that a candidate has obtained access to a set of questions that closely resemble those from a previous year's exam. The candidate is considering using this information to prepare for the upcoming exam. Which of the following actions best aligns with the Washliyah University Medan entrance exam's regulatory framework and ethical guidelines? Option A. Share the previous year's questions with other candidates to foster a collaborative study environment, believing that collective knowledge will benefit everyone. Option B. Thoroughly study the previous year's questions to understand the exam's format and typical question types, while refraining from seeking any direct answers or unauthorized materials for the current exam. Option C. Attempt to contact individuals who have recently taken the exam to gather specific details about the current year's question and expected topics. Option D. Utilize the previous year's questions as a direct study guide, assuming they are representative of the actual exam content and will provide a significant advantage. The correct answer is B. Thoroughly study the previous year's questions to understand the exam's format and typical question types, while refraining from seeking any direct answers or unauthorized materials for the current exam. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to excel and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in an entrance exam, especially for a prestigious institution like Washliyah University, Medan, can lead individuals to consider unethical shortcuts. Navigating this requires a strong understanding of the university's specific regulations and ethical guidelines governing entrance examinations. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the Washliyah University, Medan entrance exam regulations, which unequivocally prohibit any form of academic dishonesty, including the use of unauthorized external assistance. This approach is justified by the university's explicit rules designed to ensure a fair and equitable assessment of all candidates' abilities. Upholding these regulations is paramount to maintaining the credibility and integrity of the entrance examination process. An incorrect approach would be to seek or utilize any form of external assistance, such as pre-exam materials not officially sanctioned by the university, or to engage in any communication with individuals outside the examination hall during the test. Such actions directly violate the principles of academic honesty and the specific rules of the Washliyah University Medan entrance exam. This constitutes a serious ethical breach, undermining the fairness of the assessment and potentially leading to severe disciplinary actions, including disqualification from the entrance exam and future academic pursuits. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the potential consequences of such actions, assuming that minor infractions will go unnoticed or are inconsequential. This demonstrates a lack of professional judgment and an insufficient understanding of the importance of adhering to established academic protocols. Professionals facing similar situations should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established rules and ethical principles. This involves 1. Identifying the core issue and potential ethical conflicts. 2. Consulting the relevant regulatory framework and university guidelines, in this case, the Washliyah University Medan entrance exam regulations. 3. Evaluating potential courses of action against these regulations and ethical standards. 4. Choosing the option that upholds academic integrity and fairness, even if it means forgoing a perceived advantage. 5. Being prepared to accept the consequences of adhering to ethical standards, which may include not achieving a desired outcome through unfair means. Question 4. Market research demonstrates that many universities adapt their entrance examination questions to reflect current societal trends and technological advancements. Considering the specific regulatory framework and guidelines for the Washliyah University Medan entrance exam, which of the following approaches to question generation is most appropriate? Option A. Creating questions that are directly aligned with the syllabi of the programs offered at Washliyah University Medan and adhere to the university's stated objectives for assessing foundational knowledge and critical thinking skills relevant to those programs. Option B. Developing questions that incorporate advanced analytical concepts from international business case studies, assuming this demonstrates a sophisticated understanding relevant to higher education. Option C. Generating questions that require applicants to recall obscure historical facts or specialized academic trivia, believing this will differentiate candidates with exceptional memory capacity. Option D. Designing questions that focus on general knowledge and current affairs, drawing from widely published international news sources to gauge an applicant's awareness of global events. The correct answer is B. Developing questions that incorporate advanced analytical concepts from international business case studies, assuming this demonstrates a sophisticated understanding relevant to higher education. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the specific regulatory framework governing university entrance exams at Washliyah University, Medan. The core of the challenge lies in identifying and applying the correct procedures and ethical considerations as stipulated by the university's internal guidelines and relevant Indonesian educational regulations, without resorting to external or generic principles. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable practices within this defined jurisdiction. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the Washliyah University, Medan's established entrance examination protocols. This means understanding and applying the university's specific guidelines regarding the types of questions permitted, the assessment criteria, and the ethical standards expected of both examiners and applicants. The justification for this approach is rooted in the principle of regulatory compliance. The university's entrance exam is governed by its own set of rules and regulations, which are designed to ensure fairness, transparency, and the selection of qualified candidates. Any deviation from these specific rules would be a violation of the university's internal governance and potentially Indonesian educational law. An incorrect approach would be to assume that general principles of academic assessment or examination practices from other institutions or countries are applicable. This fails to acknowledge the unique regulatory environment of Washliyah University, Medan. Specifically, if an approach relies on external academic standards or common examination question types not explicitly endorsed or permitted by the university's framework, it demonstrates a lack of understanding of the specific jurisdiction. This is a regulatory failure because it disregards the established authority and rules of the Washliyah University, Medan. Furthermore, if an approach prioritizes generating questions that are overly complex or require specialized knowledge beyond the scope of a general entrance exam as defined by the university, it could be considered an ethical failure if it creates an unfair advantage or disadvantage for certain applicants, thereby undermining the principle of equal opportunity. Professionals tasked with developing or evaluating entrance examination questions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough review of the Washliyah University, Medan's official entrance examination guidelines, and any relevant Indonesian Ministry of Education regulations pertaining to university admissions. This framework should prioritize adherence to the university's specific requirements for question content, difficulty, and format. Any proposed question or assessment strategy must be evaluated against these internal regulations. If ambiguity exists, seeking clarification from the university's examination board or relevant administrative department is a crucial step. The ultimate goal is to ensure that the examination process is fair, valid, and compliant with the specific legal and administrative framework of Washliyah University, Medan. Question 5. Comparative studies suggest that prospective students often employ various strategies to prepare for university entrance examinations. Considering the specific context of the Washliyah University, Medan entrance exam, which of the following approaches best aligns with ethical preparation and maximizes the likelihood of success through legitimate means? Option A. Actively seeking out and utilizing official study guides, past papers, and information directly provided by Washliyah University, Medan, through their designated admissions or academic departments. Option B. Focusing exclusively on general academic skills and broad subject knowledge without consulting specific requirements for the Washliyah University, Medan entrance exam. Option C. Purchasing comprehensive study packages from private tutoring centers that claim to have insider knowledge of the exam content. Option D. Relying on informal online forums and social media groups where students share leaked questions and unofficial study tips. The correct answer is A. Actively seeking out and utilizing official study guides, past papers, and information directly provided by Washliyah University, Medan, through their designated admissions or academic departments. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the prospective student to navigate the complex and often nuanced process of university admissions, specifically for Washliyah University, Medan. The challenge lies in identifying the most effective and ethically sound method to gather information and demonstrate suitability for the program, while respecting the university's established procedures and the integrity of the entrance examination process. Misinterpreting or circumventing these procedures can lead to disqualification or a perception of dishonesty. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves proactively seeking official information directly from Washliyah University, Medan, regarding their entrance examination requirements and preparation resources. This demonstrates respect for the institution's authority and established processes. It also ensures that the information obtained is accurate, up-to-date, and directly relevant to the specific examination. This aligns with ethical principles of honesty and integrity in academic pursuits. By engaging with official channels, the student also implicitly acknowledges the importance of following established guidelines, a crucial trait for academic success. Incorrect approaches analysis. Seeking unauthorized or unofficial study materials from third parties without verification poses a significant ethical risk. This approach could lead to the use of outdated, inaccurate, or even misleading information, which would be detrimental to the student's preparation and performance. Furthermore, it bypasses the university's intended preparation pathways, potentially violating academic integrity principles. Attempting to gain an unfair advantage by seeking privileged information about the examination content or questions is a direct violation of academic integrity and ethical conduct. This constitutes cheating and would lead to immediate disqualification and severe reputational damage. It undermines the fairness and validity of the entrance examination process for all applicants. Focusing solely on general study techniques without understanding the specific requirements of the Washliyah University, Medan entrance exam is inefficient and potentially ineffective. While general study skills are valuable, they do not substitute for targeted preparation based on the actual examination syllabus and format. This approach risks wasting valuable preparation time on irrelevant material. Professional reasoning. Professionals in academic and admissions contexts are expected to act with integrity, honesty, and a commitment to fair processes. When preparing for an entrance examination, the professional decision-making process involves 1. Identifying the objective successful admission. 2. Understanding the rules and requirements of the institution. 3. Seeking information through official and legitimate channels. 4. Preparing diligently and ethically based on verified information. 5. Demonstrating suitability through genuine effort and understanding. Any deviation that compromises integrity or fairness is professionally unacceptable. Question 6. The audit findings indicate a significant discrepancy in the allocation of research grants, suggesting potential mismanagement of funds. The university's administration is concerned that disclosing this discrepancy to potential donors might jeopardize an upcoming crucial funding drive. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound course of action for the university's Financial Oversight Committee? Option A. Present a revised financial summary to donors that omits the specific details of the discrepancy, highlighting only positive financial aspects. Option B. Inform the administration of the findings, but await their directive on how to proceed, prioritizing the success of the funding drive above immediate disclosure. Option C. Immediately report the discrepancy to the university board and relevant regulatory bodies, and develop a transparent plan for remediation and improved fund management. Option D. Delay the full disclosure of the discrepancy to donors until after the funding drive is successfully completed, while privately initiating an internal review. The correct answer is C. Immediately report the discrepancy to the university board and relevant regulatory bodies, and develop a transparent plan for remediation and improved fund management. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and transparency. The pressure to secure funding could tempt individuals to overlook or downplay significant issues. Careful judgment is required to balance stakeholder interests while upholding the university's reputation and the principles of sound financial management. The correct approach involves a commitment to full disclosure and adherence to established financial reporting standards as mandated by Indonesian accounting principles and Washliyah University's internal financial regulations. This means accurately reflecting the financial situation, including any identified discrepancies, and developing a clear plan for remediation. This approach is ethically sound because it prioritizes honesty, accountability, and the long-term financial health of the institution over short-term gains. It aligns with the principles of good governance and fiduciary responsibility expected of university leadership. An incorrect approach that involves concealing or misrepresenting the audit findings would be a severe ethical and regulatory failure. This would violate the principles of transparency and honesty, potentially leading to misinformed decisions by the university board and donors. It could also expose the university to legal repercussions and damage its credibility. Another incorrect approach, such as delaying the reporting of findings without a justifiable reason or a clear plan for addressing them, also constitutes a failure. This inaction can be interpreted as an attempt to avoid accountability and can exacerbate the underlying financial issues, ultimately harming the university more significantly. Professionals facing similar situations should employ a structured decision-making process. This involves 1. Identifying the core ethical and professional obligations. 2. Gathering all relevant facts and understanding the implications of the audit findings. 3. Consulting applicable regulations and university policies. 4. Seeking advice from internal or external experts if necessary. 5. Evaluating potential courses of action based on their ethical and regulatory compliance, as well as their impact on the institution. 6. Choosing the option that best upholds integrity, transparency, and the long-term interests of the university. Question 7. Regulatory review indicates that Washliyah University, Medan, is developing new guidelines for its entrance examination process. Considering the specific Indonesian higher education regulatory framework and the university's commitment to academic integrity, which of the following approaches best ensures compliance and fairness in the development of these new guidelines? Option A. Prioritizing the adoption of the most efficient and cost-effective examination methods, with minimal consultation of existing university policies. Option B. Conducting a thorough review of Washliyah University's existing entrance examination regulations, relevant Indonesian higher education laws, and consulting with internal university committees and academic staff to draft new guidelines that are contextually appropriate and compliant. Option C. Implementing a pilot program for a new examination format without formal approval to gauge applicant reaction before finalizing the guidelines. Option D. Developing guidelines based on best practices observed in international university entrance examinations, assuming they are universally applicable. The correct answer is D. Developing guidelines based on best practices observed in international university entrance examinations, assuming they are universally applicable. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge in understanding the specific regulatory framework governing university entrance exams at Washliyah University, Medan. The core of the challenge lies in accurately identifying and applying the principles of academic integrity and fairness, as mandated by the university's internal regulations, and any overarching Indonesian higher education guidelines relevant to entrance examinations. A professional decision-maker must navigate potential ambiguities in these regulations and ensure that the examination process upholds the university's standards and the principles of equitable opportunity for all applicants. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding of Washliyah University's specific entrance examination guidelines, which would likely emphasize fairness, transparency, and the prevention of academic dishonesty. This approach prioritizes adherence to the established rules and procedures of the university, ensuring that the examination is conducted in a manner that is both legally sound within the Indonesian higher education context and ethically defensible. The justification for this approach rests on the fundamental principle that all university admissions processes must be governed by clear, consistently applied regulations designed to select candidates based on merit and suitability, free from bias or unfair advantage. An incorrect approach would be to rely on general principles of examination fairness without consulting the specific Washliyah University regulations. This failure stems from a lack of jurisdictional specificity, potentially leading to the application of inappropriate standards or overlooking unique requirements stipulated by the university. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed or convenience over regulatory compliance, such as implementing a new examination format without proper approval or consultation with the relevant university bodies. This demonstrates a disregard for established procedures and could lead to legal challenges or a compromised admissions process. A third incorrect approach might involve making subjective judgments about candidate suitability that are not grounded in the objective criteria outlined in the university's examination framework, thereby undermining the principle of merit-based selection. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a comprehensive review of all applicable regulations and guidelines specific to Washliyah University's entrance examination. This includes consulting official university documents, handbooks, and any relevant ministerial decrees from the Indonesian Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technology pertaining to higher education admissions. Following this, a comparative analysis of different potential approaches against these specific regulations should be conducted. The chosen approach must demonstrably align with the spirit and letter of the law and university policy, prioritizing fairness, transparency, and academic integrity. Question 8. Consider a scenario where a senior lecturer at Washliyah University, Medan, is approached by a close family friend who is applying for the entrance exam. The friend, while not academically exceptional, is aware of the lecturer's position and subtly hints at the possibility of future favors if their child is admitted. The lecturer is aware that the friend's child meets the minimum eligibility criteria, but is unlikely to secure a place based on the competitive nature of the exam and the university's established merit-based selection process. The lecturer is asked to ensure their admission. What is the most appropriate course of action for the lecturer to uphold the integrity of the Washliyah University Medan entrance exam? Option A. Discreetly provide the friend's child with advanced study materials and hints about the exam's focus areas, believing this is a reasonable way to support a family friend without directly altering scores. Option B. Inform the friend that while direct intervention is not possible, they can subtly advocate for the child's application by highlighting their potential to the admissions committee, even if their academic record is not outstanding. Option C. Politely decline to interfere, explaining that admission is strictly based on merit and the university's established selection criteria, and that any attempt to influence the process would be unethical and could jeopardize the integrity of the exam. Option D. Accept the favor offer and attempt to influence the admissions committee to allocate a spot for the friend's child, rationalizing that it is a minor exception for a deserving individual. The correct answer is C. Politely decline to interfere, explaining that admission is strictly based on merit and the university's established selection criteria, and that any attempt to influence the process would be unethical and could jeopardize the integrity of the exam. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a university's need to attract qualified students and the ethical imperative to ensure the integrity of its admission process. The Washliyah University Medan entrance exam regulations, while not explicitly detailed here, are presumed to uphold principles of fairness, transparency, and meritocracy. A deep understanding of these underlying principles, even without specific regulatory text, is crucial for navigating such situations. The correct approach involves prioritizing the university's established admission criteria and ensuring that all candidates are evaluated objectively against these standards. This upholds the principle of fairness by treating all applicants equally and maintaining the credibility of the entrance examination. Ethically, it aligns with the duty of professionals within educational institutions to act with integrity and uphold the standards of their profession. This approach ensures that admission decisions are based on genuine academic merit, not on external pressures or undue influence, thereby safeguarding the university's reputation and the value of its degrees. An incorrect approach that involves offering preferential treatment based on personal connections or perceived future benefits would violate the fundamental principles of fairness and meritocracy. Such an action undermines the integrity of the admission process, creating an uneven playing field for other deserving candidates. This could lead to a breach of ethical conduct expected of university staff, potentially damaging the institution's reputation and leading to a decline in the quality of its student body. Another incorrect approach, such as manipulating the examination process to favor a particular candidate, is a direct contravention of academic integrity. This not only constitutes unethical behavior, but could also have legal ramifications if it violates any specific regulations governing educational admissions in Indonesia. It erodes trust in the university and devalues the achievements of students admitted through legitimate means. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear adherence to established university policies and admission guidelines. Professionals should first seek to understand the exact requirements and criteria for admission. If faced with a situation that appears to compromise these standards, the next step should be to consult with relevant authorities within the university, such as the admissions committee or academic leadership, to seek clarification and guidance. Maintaining detailed records of interactions and decisions is also a crucial part of professional practice, providing accountability and transparency. The ultimate goal is to ensure that all decisions are defensible, ethical, and in alignment with the university's mission and regulatory framework. Question 9. The evaluation methodology shows an applicant for Washliyah University's entrance exam has submitted a portfolio containing numerous awards and publications that appear exceptionally advanced for their age and educational background. The admissions committee is tasked with assessing this portfolio. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the principles of academic integrity and fair evaluation, as expected by Washliyah University? Option A. Immediately accept the portfolio as presented, assuming the applicant's claims are accurate and reflect their genuine capabilities, thereby expediting the admission process. Option B. Reject the portfolio outright due to its extraordinary nature, assuming it is likely exaggerated or misattributed, and proceed with evaluating the applicant based solely on their standard academic transcripts. Option C. Rely exclusively on the applicant's written statements and self-reported accomplishments within the portfolio, without seeking any independent confirmation or further evidence. Option D. Conduct a thorough verification of the applicant's submitted achievements by cross-referencing with official records, seeking confirmation from awarding institutions or publishers, and potentially arranging for a practical demonstration or interview to assess the applicant's direct contribution and understanding of the work. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough verification of the applicant's submitted achievements by cross-referencing with official records, seeking confirmation from awarding institutions or publishers, and potentially arranging for a practical demonstration or interview to assess the applicant's direct contribution and understanding of the work. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a scenario where an applicant for Washliyah University's entrance exam has presented a portfolio that appears to significantly exceed the typical achievements of a high school graduate. This presents a professional challenge because the admissions committee must uphold the integrity of the entrance examination process while also ensuring fairness and accurately assessing the applicant's true capabilities. The committee needs to balance the desire to recognize exceptional talent with the need to prevent undue advantage or misrepresentation, adhering strictly to the Washliyah University's established admission regulations and ethical guidelines for academic integrity. The correct approach involves a thorough, multifaceted verification process that respects the applicant's submission, while diligently confirming its authenticity and relevance. This approach aligns with the principles of academic fairness and due diligence mandated by Washliyah University's admission framework. Specifically, it requires cross-referencing submitted achievements with verifiable sources, seeking independent confirmation where possible, and potentially conducting a supplementary assessment or interview to gauge the applicant's direct involvement and understanding of the presented work. This upholds the university's commitment to admitting students based on genuine merit and adherence to its stated admission criteria, ensuring a level playing field for all candidates. An incorrect approach would be to immediately accept the portfolio at face value without any verification. This fails to uphold the university's responsibility to ensure the validity of admission credentials and could lead to admitting a student based on misrepresented achievements, undermining the academic standards of Washliyah University. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the portfolio outright due to its exceptional nature without any attempt at verification. This demonstrates a lack of open-mindedness and could unfairly penalize a genuinely talented applicant, potentially violating principles of equitable assessment. A third incorrect approach would be to rely solely on the applicant's self-declaration without seeking any external validation, which bypasses essential due diligence and opens the door to potential misrepresentation. Professionals in academic admissions should employ a structured decision-making process that prioritizes evidence-based assessment and adherence to institutional policy. This involves 1. Understanding the specific admission criteria and verification procedures of Washliyah University. 2. Critically evaluating the submitted evidence, identifying any potential discrepancies or areas requiring further scrutiny. 3. Developing a systematic plan for verification, including identifying appropriate sources and methods. 4. Maintaining objectivity and fairness throughout the process, treating all applicants equitably. And 5. Documenting all steps taken and decisions made to ensure transparency and accountability. Question 10. The investigation demonstrates that a committee tasked with developing questions for the Washliyah University, Medan, entrance exam has proposed a set of questions that are widely used in national standardized tests across Indonesia, without first consulting the specific Washliyah University, Medan, entrance exam regulations. Which approach should the committee adopt to ensure compliance with the examination's regulatory framework? Option A. Seek external validation from other universities in Medan to confirm the suitability of the proposed questions for a university entrance exam. Option B. Halt the question development process and conduct a thorough review of the official Washliyah University, Medan, entrance exam regulations to ensure all proposed questions strictly adhere to the university's specific requirements and guidelines. Option C. Modify the proposed questions slightly to incorporate local cultural references relevant to Medan, assuming this will satisfy the university's unique requirements. Option D. Immediately proceed with the proposed questions, as national standardized tests are generally considered reliable and aligned with educational standards. The correct answer is D. Immediately proceed with the proposed questions, as national standardized tests are generally considered reliable and aligned with educational standards. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the university entrance exam regulations for Washliyah University, Medan, are paramount and must be strictly adhered to. Misinterpreting or disregarding these specific regulations can lead to invalidation of the exam process, reputational damage for the university, and unfair outcomes for prospective students. The core of the challenge lies in ensuring that all examination procedures, from question design to administration, align precisely with the established framework for this particular institution. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and application of the Washliyah University, Medan, entrance exam regulations. This means meticulously reviewing the official guidelines provided by the university for the entrance examination. The justification for this approach is rooted in the principle of regulatory compliance. Adhering to the specific laws, rules, and guidelines set forth by Washliyah University, Medan, is not merely a procedural step, but an ethical imperative to ensure fairness, integrity, and validity of the entrance examination process. Any deviation risks violating the established framework, potentially leading to legal challenges or administrative sanctions. An incorrect approach would be to rely on general examination, best practices, or regulations from other universities. This is a failure because the jurisdiction is explicitly defined as Washliyah University, Medan. Generic practices, while potentially sound in other contexts, may not align with the unique requirements or specific nuances of the Washliyah University's examination framework. This could lead to procedural errors that are not permissible under the university's own rules. Another incorrect approach would be to assume that common examination standards are sufficient without consulting the specific Washliyah University, Medan, regulations. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the principle of specific jurisdictional compliance. The university's regulations are the ultimate authority for its entrance examination, and failing to consult them directly is a significant ethical and regulatory oversight. The professional decision-making process for similar situations requires a systematic approach. 1. Identify the specific jurisdiction and its governing regulations. In this case, it is Washliyah University, Medan, and its entrance exam framework. 2. Thoroughly review and understand all applicable regulations, laws, and guidelines within that specific jurisdiction. 3. Apply these regulations directly to the situation at hand, ensuring all actions are in strict conformity. 4. If any ambiguity exists, seek clarification from the relevant authorities within the specified jurisdiction. 5. Document all decisions and actions taken, referencing the specific regulatory basis. Question 11. The analysis reveals that an applicant for Washliyah University's entrance exam has been working on their personal statement and has incorporated several well-phrased sentences and ideas from an online article about the university's history and mission. The applicant believes these sentences perfectly capture the essence of their aspirations and would significantly strengthen their application. However, they have not cited the source of these sentences. Considering Washliyah University's stated commitment to academic integrity and original submissions for entrance examinations, what is the most ethically sound and procedurally correct course of action for the applicant? Option A. Rewrite the sentences in their own words, ensuring the core ideas are retained, but the phrasing is entirely original, and submit the personal statement without citation, as the original phrasing is not their own. Option B. Omit the borrowed sentences entirely and focus on expressing their aspirations using only their own original thoughts and phrasing, even if it means the personal statement is less eloquent. Option C. Directly quote the sentences from the online article and provide a clear citation for the source within the personal statement, acknowledging the origin of the phrasing. Option D. Submit the personal statement as is, including the borrowed sentences, assuming that the university will understand the intent, and that the focus is on the overall message rather than precise attribution for minor phrasing. The correct answer is A. Rewrite the sentences in their own words, ensuring the core ideas are retained but the phrasing is entirely original, and submit the personal statement without citation, as the original phrasing is not their own. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for an applicant to Washliyah University's entrance exam, specifically concerning the ethical implications of academic integrity and the university's established guidelines. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the desire to present one's best work with the absolute requirement of honesty and adherence to the university's stated rules regarding original submissions. Careful judgment is required to navigate the temptation to present work that is not entirely one's own, understanding the severe consequences of academic dishonesty. The correct approach involves a commitment to academic integrity, which is a foundational principle in higher education. This means submitting only original work that accurately reflects the applicant's own understanding and effort. Washliyah University, like most academic institutions, has explicit regulations against plagiarism and academic misconduct. Adhering to these regulations is not merely a procedural requirement, but an ethical imperative that upholds the value of the degree and the reputation of the institution. By submitting their own work, the applicant demonstrates respect for the examination process and the principles of fair competition. An incorrect approach would be to submit work that has been significantly influenced or directly copied from external sources without proper attribution. This constitutes academic dishonesty, a serious ethical failure. Such an action violates the trust placed in the applicant by the university and undermines the integrity of the entrance examination. Furthermore, it demonstrates a lack of genuine understanding and preparedness, which are the very qualities the examination seeks to assess. Another incorrect approach would be to seek unauthorized assistance from others to complete the application materials, as this also bypasses the intended assessment of individual capability and knowledge. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's academic integrity policy. Applicants should prioritize honesty and originality. If unsure about what constitutes acceptable use of sources or collaboration, they should seek clarification from the University Admissions Office before submitting their application. The guiding principle should always be to act in a manner that is transparent, ethical, and fully compliant with the established rules and expectations of the institution. Question 12. Compliance review shows that an examiner for the Washliyah University Medan entrance examination discovers that one of the applicants is their sibling. The examiner is responsible for grading a portion of the examination papers. What is the most appropriate course of action for the examiner to ensure the integrity of the entrance examination process according to Washliyah University's guidelines? Option A. The examiner should proceed with grading the applicant's paper, confident in their ability to remain objective and fair. Option B. The examiner should privately offer the applicant some guidance on how to approach the examination questions before the test begins. Option C. The examiner should immediately declare their familial relationship to the applicant and recuse themselves from grading any part of that applicant's examination. Option D. The examiner should discreetly inform a trusted colleague about the relationship and ask them to grade the applicant's paper without formal declaration. The correct answer is A. The examiner should proceed with grading the applicant's paper, confident in their ability to remain objective and fair. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the potential for conflicts of interest and the need to uphold academic integrity within the Washliyah University, Medan's entrance examination process. The university's regulations, as stipulated for its entrance exams, emphasize fairness, transparency, and the prevention of any undue influence or bias. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the applicant's familial relationship with the examiner against the university's commitment to an impartial assessment. The correct approach involves the examiner immediately declaring their conflict of interest and recusing themselves from any involvement in the applicant's assessment. This aligns with the principles of academic integrity and fairness, mandated by Washliyah University's entrance examination guidelines. Such guidelines typically require individuals in positions of authority or assessment to avoid situations where personal relationships could compromise objective evaluation. By recusing themselves, the examiner upholds the trust placed in the examination process and ensures that the applicant is evaluated solely on their merits, free from any perceived or actual favoritism. This proactive step prevents any appearance of impropriety and safeguards the integrity of the entrance exam. An incorrect approach would be for the examiner to proceed with assessing the applicant, believing they can remain impartial. This fails to acknowledge the inherent risk of bias, even if unintentional, and directly contravenes the spirit and likely explicit regulations of Washliyah University's entrance examination framework, which aims to eliminate any potential for favoritism. Another incorrect approach would be to delegate the assessment to a colleague without formally declaring the conflict of interest. While seemingly a solution, this still carries the risk of indirect influence or the appearance of circumventing the proper declaration process, potentially undermining the transparency expected in university admissions. A third incorrect approach would be to inform the applicant privately about the examination content or format. This constitutes a serious breach of examination security and fairness, directly violating the principles of equal opportunity and objective assessment that are fundamental to any university entrance examination. Professionals in such situations should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical conduct and adherence to institutional regulations. This involves recognizing potential conflicts of interest, understanding the specific institutional policies governing such situations, and taking immediate, transparent action to mitigate any risks. The primary consideration should always be the integrity of the process and the fairness to all applicants. Question 13. To address the challenge of ensuring a fair and valid assessment during the Washliyah University Medan entrance examination, an applicant encounters a question that requires knowledge not readily recalled. Which of the following actions best demonstrates adherence to the Washliyah University Medan's regulatory framework for entrance exams? Option A. Using a smartphone to quickly search for the answer online, assuming such technology is not explicitly forbidden. Option B. Discreetly referencing personal handwritten notes that were not explicitly prohibited in the general instructions. Option C. Attempting to recall the information from memory, acknowledging that if it cannot be recalled, the question may remain unanswered. Option D. Briefly asking a fellow applicant for assistance with the specific piece of information needed. The correct answer is B. Discreetly referencing personal handwritten notes that were not explicitly prohibited in the general instructions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the Washliyah University Medan's specific entrance examination regulations and guidelines, particularly concerning academic integrity and the appropriate use of external resources. The challenge lies in discerning which approach aligns with the university's stated rules, which are paramount for a fair and valid assessment. Careful judgment is required to avoid any action that could be construed as academic misconduct, as this would jeopardize the applicant's eligibility. The correct approach involves strictly adhering to the Washliyah University Medan's entrance exam guidelines by relying solely on the provided examination materials and personal knowledge. This is the best professional practice because it directly aligns with the regulatory framework of the exam, which is designed to assess an individual's unaided understanding and preparation. Any deviation from this, such as consulting external sources, violates the core principle of academic integrity and the specific rules governing the examination process at Washliyah University Medan. An incorrect approach that involves discreetly referencing notes or textbooks during the exam represents a direct violation of the Washliyah University, Medan's academic integrity policy. This action undermines the validity of the examination and is considered a form of cheating, which carries severe consequences, including immediate disqualification. Another incorrect approach, such as discussing questions with other candidates during the exam, also breaches the examination's rules on collaboration and is a clear instance of academic misconduct. This compromises the fairness of the assessment for all participants. A third incorrect approach, which is to assume that general exam-taking strategies apply without consulting the specific Washliyah University, Medan guidelines, is also professionally unacceptable. While general strategies might be useful, the specific regulations of the Washliyah University, Medan entrance exam are binding and must be followed precisely. Failure to do so demonstrates a lack of diligence and respect for the institution's examination process. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a thorough review of all provided examination instructions and regulations from the Washliyah University, Medan. Applicants must prioritize understanding and internalizing these specific rules before and during the exam. If any aspect of the regulations is unclear, seeking clarification from the examination proctors or the university administration before the exam commences is the appropriate course of action. During the exam, the guiding principle should always be to act in a manner that upholds academic integrity and strictly complies with the stated rules, relying only on one's own knowledge and the permitted examination materials. Question 14. The review process indicates that a candidate for the Washliyah University Medan entrance examination has submitted an application that includes a letter of recommendation from a prominent local figure, alongside their academic transcripts. While the transcripts appear to meet the minimum requirements, the letter of recommendation subtly implies a personal connection and suggests that the candidate might benefit from understanding the university's specific context. How should the admissions committee proceed? Option A. Thoroughly verify the candidate's academic qualifications against all stated entrance requirements and assess the letter of recommendation for any information that directly supports or contradicts these qualifications, without giving undue weight to the implied personal connection. Option B. Grant the candidate preferential consideration due to the influential nature of the recommender, assuming their endorsement signifies a valuable addition to the university. Option C. Seek informal advice from the prominent local figure to clarify the intent behind their recommendation before making a decision on the application. Option D. Immediately disqualify the candidate's application, interpreting the mention of a personal connection and understanding the university's context as an attempt to circumvent standard admission procedures. The correct answer is A. Thoroughly verify the candidate's academic qualifications against all stated entrance requirements and assess the letter of recommendation for any information that directly supports or contradicts these qualifications, without giving undue weight to the implied personal connection. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's established admission criteria and the potential for subjective interpretation or external influence. Maintaining the integrity of the Washliyah University Medan entrance examination process is paramount to ensuring fairness and upholding the institution's reputation. Careful judgment is required to navigate situations where candidates might present information that could be perceived as an attempt to bypass standard procedures. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective verification of all submitted documents against the official Washliyah University Medan entrance examination regulations. This means meticulously checking the authenticity and completeness of the candidate's academic records and any supporting documentation, ensuring they meet the stipulated requirements without deviation. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant with the university's admission framework, as it prioritizes merit and adherence to established rules, thereby safeguarding the fairness of the selection process. An incorrect approach would be to grant special consideration based on a personal acquaintance or a perceived hardship without a clear, documented basis within the university's regulations. This could lead to accusations of favoritism and undermine the credibility of the entrance examination. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the candidate's application solely based on the mention of a connection, without undertaking the necessary verification steps. This could be discriminatory and unfair if the candidate genuinely meets all the required criteria. A further incorrect approach would be to seek external advice from individuals not officially designated to interpret or apply the university's admission policies, as this introduces an unauthorized layer of decision-making and potential bias. Professionals in university admissions should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with a clear understanding of the relevant regulations and guidelines. When faced with ambiguous situations, the process should involve objective evidence gathering, strict adherence to established procedures, and consultation with designated authorities or committees responsible for policy interpretation and enforcement. Transparency and consistency in application are key to maintaining ethical standards and legal compliance. Question 15. What factors determine the eligibility criteria for prospective students applying to Washliyah University, Medan, as outlined in the university's official admission regulations for the current academic year? Option A. Common admission policies observed in other private universities within the Medan region. Option B. General national education standards for university admissions across Indonesia. Option C. Best practices for student selection adopted by leading international universities. Option D. The specific academic prerequisites and documentation requirements stipulated in the Washliyah University, Medan, Admission Handbook. Correct answer is D. The specific academic prerequisites and documentation requirements stipulated in the Washliyah University, Medan, Admission Handbook. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the university entrance exam at Washliyah University, Medan, requires adherence to specific, localized regulations and guidelines. The challenge lies in accurately identifying and applying these specific rules, rather than relying on general knowledge or regulations from other institutions. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the question and its analysis are strictly confined to the Washliyah University, Medan context, as stipulated by the exam's jurisdiction. The correct approach involves constructing a question that directly probes the understanding of the Washliyah University, Medan entrance exam's specific regulatory framework. This means focusing on the unique aspects of their admission process, academic policies, or ethical guidelines as they pertain to prospective students. The justification for this approach is rooted in the exam's explicit instruction to adhere only to the specified jurisdiction. Any question that deviates from this narrow scope, even if conceptually related to university admissions, would fail to meet the exam's core requirement. An incorrect approach would be to formulate a question based on general university entrance exam principles or regulations from other Indonesian universities or international standards. This fails because it violates the absolute priority of adhering only to the Washliyah University, Medan entrance exam's regulatory framework. Such an approach demonstrates a lack of attention to the specific jurisdictional constraints, which is a critical failure in an exam designed to test adherence to precise rules. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a rigorous initial assessment of the defined scope and constraints. Before generating any content, one must internalize the specified jurisdiction and its boundaries. Then, brainstorm potential areas within that jurisdiction that are relevant to the exam's purpose. Finally, draft content that directly addresses these areas, constantly cross-referencing against the established jurisdictional limits to ensure strict compliance. Question 16. Quality control measures reveal a statistically significant anomaly in the response patterns of a subset of candidates during the Washliyah University, Medan entrance examination, specifically concerning the time taken to answer certain question types and unusual consistency in answers across multiple choice questions that are typically prone to varied responses. The examination committee needs to decide on the immediate next steps. Which of the following represents the most appropriate and procedurally sound course of action for the Washliyah University, Medan Examination Committee? Option A. Initiate a formal, detailed investigation into the flagged anomalies, involving a review of examination protocols, candidate response data, and consultation with subject matter experts to determine the nature and extent of any potential irregularities before any decisions are made regarding the affected candidates or the examination's validity. Option B. Focus solely on the candidates with the most extreme response deviations, assuming these are the only ones involved in any potential misconduct, and request individual explanations without a broader review of the examination's integrity. Option C. Issue a general statement to all candidates acknowledging potential minor technical glitches in the examination system and advising them to await further communication without detailing the specific quality control findings. Option D. Immediately disqualify all candidates whose responses fall within the flagged subset, citing the quality control anomalies as definitive proof of misconduct. The correct answer is A. Initiate a formal, detailed investigation into the flagged anomalies, involving a review of examination protocols, candidate response data, and consultation with subject matter experts to determine the nature and extent of any potential irregularities, before any decisions are made regarding the affected candidates or the examination's validity. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to address potential irregularities in the entrance examination process. The core of the challenge lies in ensuring fairness to all applicants while upholding the credibility of Washliyah University, Medan. Careful judgment is required to avoid both undue suspicion that could harm innocent applicants and overlooking genuine issues that could compromise the examination's validity. The correct approach involves a systematic and evidence-based investigation. This means meticulously reviewing the flagged quality control data, cross-referencing it with examination protocols, and consulting with relevant examination committee members and faculty. The justification for this approach is rooted in the principles of due process and fairness, which are fundamental to any educational institution's admission procedures. Specifically, Washliyah University's internal regulations on examination conduct and academic integrity would mandate such a thorough review before any conclusions are drawn or actions are taken. This ensures that decisions are not arbitrary but are based on concrete findings, thereby protecting the rights of applicants and maintaining the university's reputation. An incorrect approach would be to immediately invalidate the entire examination based on preliminary quality control flags, without further investigation. This fails to adhere to the principle of innocent until proven guilty and could unfairly penalize a large number of applicants who followed all procedures correctly. It also bypasses the established internal procedures for handling examination anomalies, which likely require a formal review process. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the quality control flags altogether, assuming they are minor glitches. This is a dereliction of duty and undermines the university's commitment to academic integrity. It risks allowing potential irregularities to go unaddressed, which could lead to a compromised admission process and damage the university's standing. Such inaction would violate the spirit, if not the letter, of any regulations requiring the university to maintain fair and secure examination processes. A third incorrect approach would be to single out specific individuals for investigation based solely on the quality control flags, without a broader review of the examination's integrity. This could lead to a witch hunt and unfairly target individuals, potentially creating a hostile environment and violating principles of natural justice. The initial flags are a systemic indicator, and the investigation should first focus on understanding the nature and scope of the issue across the examination as a whole. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Acknowledge and document the flagged issue. 2. Initiate a preliminary assessment to understand the nature and potential impact of the flags. 3. Consult relevant internal policies and regulations governing examinations and academic integrity at Washliyah University, Medan. 4. Formulate a clear investigation plan, including who will be involved and what evidence will be gathered. 5. Conduct a thorough, impartial investigation based on the plan. 6. Based on findings, determine appropriate actions in accordance with university regulations and ethical principles. 7. Communicate findings and actions transparently to relevant stakeholders while respecting privacy. Question 17. Stakeholder feedback indicates potential irregularities in the administration of a recent Washliyah University, Medan, entrance exam, specifically concerning the fairness of question distribution across different applicant groups. The university's internal regulations for entrance examinations outline a clear process for handling appeals and reviewing exam administration. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical standards for Washliyah University, Medan? Option A. Conduct a selective review of the feedback, focusing only on comments that align with the initial assessment that no significant issues occurred, and then proceed with admissions. Option B. Initiate an immediate, comprehensive review of the exam administration process, including a detailed analysis of the feedback against the university's established examination regulations and appeals procedures, to determine if any procedural breaches occurred and what corrective actions, if any, are warranted. Option C. Publicly dismiss the feedback as unsubstantiated and proceed with admissions based on the original exam results without further investigation, citing the need to maintain exam security. Option D. Implement immediate, ad hoc changes to the scoring algorithm for all applicants to mitigate perceived unfairness, without a formal review or consultation. The correct answer is B. Initiate an immediate, comprehensive review of the exam administration process, including a detailed analysis of the feedback against the university's established examination regulations and appeals procedures, to determine if any procedural breaches occurred and what corrective actions, if any, are warranted. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to address legitimate concerns raised by stakeholders. The entrance exam is a critical gateway, and any perception of unfairness or procedural irregularity can undermine the credibility of Washliyah University, Medan. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the response is both fair to applicants and upholds the university's standards. The correct approach involves a thorough, impartial review of the feedback, adhering strictly to Washliyah University's established examination regulations and internal appeals procedures. This approach is right because it demonstrates a commitment to due process and transparency, which are fundamental ethical principles in academic admissions. By following the university's own guidelines, Washliyah University, Medan, ensures that all decisions are made within a defined legal and regulatory framework, preventing arbitrary outcomes and maintaining public trust. This systematic review process is the most appropriate way to investigate alleged irregularities and determine appropriate actions, if any. An approach that dismisses the feedback without investigation is professionally unacceptable because it disregards stakeholder concerns and potentially violates the university's commitment to fairness and transparency. This failure to engage with feedback can lead to perceptions of institutional arrogance and a lack of accountability, damaging the university's reputation. Another incorrect approach, which involves immediately implementing changes to the exam process based on unsubstantiated claims, is also professionally unacceptable. This premature action could unfairly penalize current applicants or create new procedural issues without a proper understanding of the alleged problem. It bypasses the established review mechanisms and could be seen as an overreaction, undermining the integrity of the existing examination framework. Finally, an approach that involves selectively addressing only the feedback that supports a predetermined outcome is ethically flawed. This biased approach compromises the impartiality required in any review process and violates the principle of fairness. It suggests a lack of genuine commitment to addressing the concerns raised and can lead to accusations of favoritism or cover-up. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Acknowledging and documenting all stakeholder feedback promptly. 2. Consulting the relevant Washliyah University, Medan, regulations and policies governing entrance examinations and appeals. 3. Establishing an impartial committee or designated individual to conduct a thorough review of the feedback against established criteria. 4. Ensuring that the review process is transparent and follows established procedures. 5. Communicating the findings and any subsequent actions clearly and appropriately to stakeholders. Question 18. Process analysis reveals that during the Washliyah University Medan entrance examination registration, a batch of applicant files contained scanned copies of academic transcripts that appear to be of lower resolution than typically expected, raising concerns about potential alteration. The registration team is under pressure to meet a tight deadline for processing all applications. Which of the following actions best upholds the regulatory framework and guidelines for the Washliyah University Medan entrance exam? Option A. Flag these applications for further verification of the academic transcripts by requesting official copies or contacting the issuing institution, even if it delays processing. Option B. Proceed with processing these applications, assuming the transcripts are legitimate to meet the registration deadline. Option C. Reject these applications outright due to the questionable quality of the submitted transcripts, without attempting further verification. Option D. Accept the lower resolution transcripts as sufficient, given the pressure to meet the deadline, and inform applicants later if any issues arise. The correct answer is B. Proceed with processing these applications, assuming the transcripts are legitimate to meet the registration deadline. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge in ensuring the integrity of the Washliyah University Medan entrance examination process, specifically concerning the handling of applicant data and the adherence to established university regulations. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for efficient processing with the absolute imperative of regulatory compliance and data privacy, as mandated by Washliyah University's internal guidelines for entrance examinations. Careful judgment is required to avoid any actions that could compromise the fairness of the examination or violate student privacy. The correct approach involves a systematic verification of all submitted documents against the university's stated requirements for admission, ensuring that no applicant is unfairly disadvantaged or admitted based on incomplete or falsified information. This aligns with the Washliyah University's regulatory framework for entrance examinations, which emphasizes meritocracy and adherence to established procedures. Specifically, university regulations likely stipulate clear criteria for document submission and verification to maintain the integrity and fairness of the selection process. Any deviation from these documented procedures would undermine the credibility of the examination. An incorrect approach that involves overlooking discrepancies in submitted documents to expedite processing would be a direct violation of the Washliyah University's entrance examination regulations. These regulations are designed to ensure that only qualified candidates who meet all stipulated criteria are admitted. Failing to verify documents thoroughly introduces a risk of admitting unqualified candidates, thereby compromising the academic standards of the university and potentially leading to legal or administrative challenges. Another incorrect approach, such as accepting unofficial documentation without proper validation, also contravenes the established regulatory framework. University entrance exams typically require official, verifiable documents to prevent fraud and ensure a level playing field. The absence of a robust validation process for such documents would create loopholes that could be exploited, leading to unfair advantages for some applicants and undermining the fairness of the entire selection process. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the Washliyah University's specific entrance examination regulations and data handling policies. Professionals must prioritize adherence to these rules above expediency. When faced with potential discrepancies or ambiguities, the appropriate action is to consult the official guidelines, seek clarification from the examination committee or relevant university department, and ensure that any decision made is fully documented and justifiable under the existing regulatory framework. This systematic and rule-bound approach safeguards the integrity of the examination and upholds ethical standards. Question 19. Compliance review shows that during the Washliyah University Medan entrance exam admission cycle, an applicant's file included a strong personal recommendation from a respected community leader, who is also a significant donor to the university. The admissions committee is considering how to best handle this recommendation within the established examination framework. Option A. Assign significant additional weight to the applicant's file due to the recommendation from the prominent donor, as this indicates potential future support for the university. Option B. Advise the applicant that their application will be disadvantaged unless they can provide further evidence of their connection to the recommending community leader. Option C. Evaluate the applicant solely based on their performance in the entrance examination and other officially documented academic qualifications, treating the recommendation as supplementary information that does not alter the core evaluation criteria. Option D. Directly contact the community leader for further informal discussions to gauge the applicant's character and suitability beyond the formal application materials. Correct answer is C. Evaluate the applicant solely based on their performance in the entrance examination and other officially documented academic qualifications, treating the recommendation as supplementary information that does not alter the core evaluation criteria. Explanation. The scenario presents a common ethical dilemma faced by university admissions committees, particularly concerning the integrity of the entrance examination process. The challenge lies in balancing the university's commitment to fair and transparent admissions with the potential for undue influence or bias. Careful judgment is required to uphold the principles of academic meritocracy and prevent any perception of impropriety. The correct approach involves a rigorous and impartial review of all applications, adhering strictly to the established criteria and procedures of the Washliyah University Medan entrance exam. This approach is justified by the university's regulatory framework, which mandates fair competition and equal opportunity for all prospective students. Upholding these principles ensures the credibility of the examination process and maintains public trust in the university's admissions decisions. Any deviation from these established procedures, such as considering external recommendations that are not part of the official application, would undermine the fairness of the selection process. An incorrect approach would be to give undue weight to a recommendation from a prominent local figure that is not part of the standard evaluation criteria. This fails to adhere to the principle of merit-based selection and introduces an element of external pressure that could compromise the integrity of the admissions process. It violates the spirit of fair competition and could lead to accusations of favoritism, damaging the university's reputation. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the application outright due to the applicant's background, without a thorough review of their qualifications against the established entrance exam criteria. This demonstrates bias and a failure to apply the university's admission regulations consistently, potentially leading to the exclusion of deserving candidates and violating principles of equal opportunity. A third incorrect approach would be to seek further informal information about the applicant from the recommending figure to verify their suitability. This bypasses the formal, documented evaluation process and opens the door to subjective judgments and potential bias, compromising the objectivity required in admissions decisions. Professionals in university admission should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established regulations and ethical guidelines. This framework involves 1. Understanding and strictly applying the Washliyah University Medan entrance exam regulations. 2. Evaluating all candidates based solely on the defined admission criteria. 3. Maintaining a transparent and documented decision-making process. 4. Avoiding any external influences or personal biases that could compromise fairness. 5. Seeking clarification from the appropriate authorities if any ambiguity arises regarding the application of rules. Question 20. The performance metrics show a significant shortfall in the university's operational budget for the upcoming academic year, prompting the administration to explore potential partnerships for immediate financial support. A proposal has been received from a private conglomerate with a strong track record in diverse commercial ventures, offering substantial funding in exchange for naming rights to a new faculty building and a guaranteed seat on the university's advisory board. However, concerns have been raised internally regarding the conglomerate's recent public controversies related to labor practices in some of its subsidiaries. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the ethical and professional responsibilities of Washliyah University, Medan, in this situation? Option A. Accept the partnership offer immediately to address the budget shortfall, as the financial benefits are substantial and the conglomerate's business practices are not directly related to academic operations. Option B. Negotiate the partnership terms to exclude any direct involvement of the conglomerate in academic decision-making and focus solely on the naming rights for the building, while conducting an independent review of the conglomerate's ethical conduct. Option C. Decline the partnership offer due to the public controversies surrounding the conglomerate's labor practices, prioritizing the university's reputation and ethical standing over immediate financial needs. Option D. Seek alternative funding sources that do not involve potential ethical compromises, even if these sources offer less immediate financial relief, and initiate a transparent dialogue with the university community about the budget challenges. The correct answer is A. Accept the partnership offer immediately to address the budget shortfall, as the financial benefits are substantial and the conglomerate's business practices are not directly related to academic operations. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term integrity of its academic programs and reputation. The pressure to secure funding can lead to compromises that undermine the core mission of Washliyah University, Medan. Careful judgment is required to balance financial sustainability with ethical responsibilities towards students, faculty, and the wider community. The correct approach involves prioritizing the university's mission and ethical obligations over short-term financial gains. This means conducting thorough due diligence on potential partnerships, ensuring alignment with academic values, and maintaining transparency in all dealings, specifically adhering to the principles of good governance and academic integrity, as implicitly expected within the Indonesian higher education regulatory framework, even without explicit mention of specific Washliyah University internal guidelines. General principles of institutional responsibility apply, is paramount. This approach safeguards the university's reputation, ensures the quality of education, and fosters trust among stakeholders. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the financial benefits without considering the academic and ethical implications would be professionally unacceptable. This could involve accepting funding from sources with questionable ethical standing or engaging in partnerships that dilute academic standards. Such actions would violate the implicit trust placed in educational institutions to uphold educational quality and societal values. Another incorrect approach might be to proceed with a partnership without adequate consultation with key stakeholders, such as faculty and academic committees, thereby bypassing established governance structures and potentially leading to decisions that are not in the best interest of the academic community. This failure to consult can lead to internal dissent and damage morale. Professionals in such situations should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the core values and mission of the institution. This should be followed by a comprehensive risk assessment, considering both financial and non-financial implications. Engaging in open communication and consultation with relevant stakeholders is crucial. Finally, decisions should be made based on a clear ethical compass, ensuring that all actions are transparent, accountable, and aligned with the long-term interests of the university and its students.